go, guys. Welcome, Rugga Muffin podcast. Me, MXO, VAR. This is episode number 4 or 5.
I think it's number 4, is not?
Yeah, it's number 4.
Siyaqhuba, man.
Yeah. How are you guys doing? Are you well?
All good, man. All good. I believe VAR is done with the flu. But thanks to technology, here we are.
Great. How are you guys feeling about the games that we played this weekend?
I think for Springbok supporters and fans, we'd be silly not to talk about the drubbing we gave to the All Blacks this past weekend. I don't think they expected it, let alone us.
Yes. From my side, I think they somewhat were waiting for a big backlash, because they would have decided that, okay, let's not play our main team. Let's go for the dead trackers, so-called, and not risk the main characters. But they brought in their main characters because they expected a backlash and they wanted to send a statement. But fortunately, we had as much to prove as they did, if not more. And we gave it to them.
Yeah, I think the statement they sent out is that they might be undercooked going into the World Cup. And none of the big players pitched up. Scott Barrett was red carded for something silly.
Yes. Completely unnecessary.
Something very silly.
Yeah. And I'm also of the view that it's not quite that they're undercooked for me. It's just that this World Cup, I think, is going to be exceptionally difficult for anybody, because we are in the so-called group of death, but I feel potentially everybody's in the group of death. Everybody's got a hurdle to trip on. So I am starting to be less concerned about our group, and I'm focused on what we can deliver based on what I saw against the All Blacks game, and the potential that we also didn't have all our starters there, and there are guys who may still be coming back. So I have a feel that even with the game we gave, we still have a little bit extra in the bag that we haven't shown yet.
I think, to your point about this so-called group of death of ours, I mean, if you look at the results from the weekend, Fiji held England up. Samoa gave Ireland a very good run. It was a 4-point game. So you're right. The so-called second-tier nations are not going to just roll over and give results to the favorites. But I think, just to settle a score from the last recording we did, we were very tough on Manile Bok.
Oh, yes. We need to own up and apologize. Especially me and you. Was it me and you, Mni?
Yeah.
It was you, Chief. Don't bring us in.
Yeah.
We were very tough on Manny. We took out the big stick on him.
Yeah.
And I think he pulled through this past match.
Yes.
His kicking was on point. He ran the back line well. And I saw some analysis that Swayze did with Jonathan Mugwen. And it was quite a technical thing that they try to explain, that Umani, when he kicks for poles, he attacks from a different angle to most goal kickers. So he says he had an online session with his kicking coach going into that match, and it seems to have done the trick. But I just hope that it's a consistent fix. It's not a once-off.
Yeah. I'll also admit I had egg on my face because I said the guys would lose and they didn't.
Well,
Again,
I called a Bok win. I just
Yeah.
didn't think it would be by 28 points.
How amazing would it have been though if the All Blacks didn't manage to score? Can you imagine going to the World Cup with a 35-0 win over the All Blacks? It didn't happen. It
And
was
the Boks
35-7.
almost pulled it off. I mean, it was for the longest time. They were holding a duck until late in the match. But look, whether they scored or not, I don't think they're going into this World Cup very confident based on their last performance.
Does that mean
You know?
anything though? Can we read anything into these matches? I saw the highlights of Fiji versus England. Fiji won that one, right? And we know their 15 side is not as good as their sevens. We know the sevens can win any tournament any day. Can we read much into these performances?
We also know that they've got players who play consistently in what used to be the Super Rugby competition. It's now New Zealand, Australia, and the Pacific Islanders. So they're getting consistent 15-man rugby at a decent level for a good season. So we can't really judge them based on before they joined that competition. I think that competition, I mean, look at what that competition did for Argentina.
Yep.
You know, so Fiji has come a long way, and I think the same can be said about Samoa, who held their own against the number one ranked island. You know, so we cannot sniffle at the effort. And just on that point about what we can make from the results, my feeling is that winning and losing become habits. And if you go into the World Cup with a winning habit or a losing habit, that means something. That's my take on it.
Yes. I think us as winners, we shouldn't read too much into it. We should take the confidence and keep pushing. But like we must also understand it in context that it was not a World Cup match.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Yeah. That was load shedding.
There it goes. Welcome to South Africa. But what do we make of Australia, gents? There was that clip, I think, on episode 3 or one of our episodes. Did try to speak positively about Eddie Jones, and then came that clip about him bashing the media and their stupid questions, and their performances have just been disappointing. What's happening with Australian rugby?
I think the way I understand it, Australia is going to host the World Cup. Is it the next World Cup? I suspect the next World Cup they're going to host. And what Eddie Jones seems to be doing is taking young players and getting them ready for that World Cup, for the home World Cup. That's my reading of it. But it's not pretty to watch. I understand the long-term plan, if that's the case. But man, for a sports crazy nation like Australia to go to the World Cup on the back of what is it, 5 straight losses now? I don't think Eddie's gonna live until that next World Cup. That's my personal take on it.
And I think they should let him run it. He's got enough passion to really bring it on. He's got enough passion to activate the boys and keep them going to a point where they eventually will come, right? So I think they have to take the risk now and stick with Eddie. They have no choice.
No, I think they've got plenty choice. It's 4 years out till the next World Cup. And there are coaches in Australia and around the world who are fit for the job besides Eddie. I just think, like I said a few episodes ago, Eddie is obsessed with going to the World Cup. And I just think they need to find other ideas from other people to take that team forward. And I see MXO has been summoned
It's like he's in a rolling mall there. Typical forward.
Hey, these little people run our lives, eh?
And his scrum half keeps coming back. He can't control the game.
A little terrier.
So, but can you call it? Can you call it, Mni? Reading from these matches, these test matches that we've seen in the past weekend, maybe past 2 weekends, can you really call it and say, hey, these guys, this country looks strong enough to make it to the final? This country looks strong enough to make it to the semis, or this country looks strong enough to win it?
Look, I still think that France is going to be a big team at the World Cup. They're playing decent rugby. They're playing very good rugby. Let's not call it decent. They're playing good rugby. It's their home World Cup. And they've been consistent with their performances over the past 2-3 years now. So that's the one team I'm quite comfortable to call. Ireland, I'm the same with them. They are, besides the fact that they've never actually done very, very well at the World Cup, they're carrying some good form into this World Cup. And then outside of that, I mean, obviously the Springboks are I have to call them because, wow, why wouldn't I? They're my home nation. So outside of those three teams, it's hard to see anyone rising to the top as things stand for me.
So we're seeing France, Ireland, Springboks in the semifinals. MXLO, what's your take? I can't read anything into pre-tournament matches, man.
I'm reading a lot. But I'm not reading just from the matches we had last weekend. I'm reading from the previous matches also. How dominant were the performances that were given initially, you know? I'll also take a hit that the Springboks hadn't shown what they could do. So we're judging them based on one game. But the other guys, the other two, Ireland and France, haven't had very dominant wins. They haven't had the kind of wins where I can look at them and say, those forwards are on. We're going to have a problem with those forwards. But that being said, I think France has had 27 wins out of 28 matches. That's still very, 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 very positive.
That's very consistent.
Yes.
But MXO, what I was saying is that the Springboks, I'm calling on emotion. I'm not calling on logic and results.
Yes,
it's pure emotion for me. The other two teams, I think, have they carry good form into the World Cup.
Yes, we don't have much time left, guys. So I think we can wrap up now. We have about 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Literally 1 minute. 30 seconds.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the big talking point from the Springbok match, the bench split. A lot has been said by everyone about who's this physio fellow, the coach, picking 7 forwards and one backline player for the bench.
Yeah.
And people are making such a big fuss about it. But, Chief, if you feel like your backline is fit enough to run for 80 minutes, go ahead and pick a new pack that you can bring on in the second half. Unless the rules say otherwise, which they don't. That's my take on it. What's your family's take, Mko?
My take is, it's frustrating to keep explaining to the to hear people go on about the rules where no rule was broken. The only issue for them was because 7 forwards entered the field at the same time. Everybody could have done the same thing. And do they have the squad to do that? Yeah, the game was even won first half.
10 seconds left, guys. I think this is where we should end it. We don't have much time. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Rugga Muffin podcast. We out of here.
And apologies for the